All right, so welcome everyone to our session this afternoon, and we have a very special guest speaker joining us at this session. But just a bit of background on today's event. As many of you know, we are celebrating diversity in IT here at SUNY Brockport in the Department of Computing Sciences. And we have joined the global initiative known as Girls in Information Communication Technology, which is a global initiative to bring greater awareness for the need for more diversity in technology and to encourage young girls and women to study fields such as science, technology, engineering programs. And so we're very, very happy to have Dr. Brittany Washington joining us as a part of our celebrations. And Dr. Washington brings with her tremendous experience and expertise in the field of IT, both from an academic standpoint as well as from industry. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand it off to her to have her share her experiences with all of us.
Hello, everyone. First and foremost, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I always take advantage when I have the opportunity to speak to students. Case in point, why I am and where I am and when I am. So we're going to talk about my journey a little bit, the when, the where, the why, and a journey still traveled. And the reason why a journey still traveled is because I'm still on this journey, right? I'm probably going to be on this journey until I retire. I'm still young, so hopefully that is soon. I want to be that non-traditional woman who retires from IT and just teaches for the rest of her life and do research. So that's my goal. So I'm going to take you over a series of slides. Feel free to stop and ask me any questions throughout, or if you prefer to save the questions to the end, that's fine as well. I think we have some time at the end. Okay. All right. So in my younger days, I was never the girl who got in trouble for the normal things. I got in trouble for the crazy things, like talking too much or taking my mother's TVs. So VCR, DVD, if you are over the age of such and such, you would know what a VCR and a DVD is. So I was that person who was actually taking things apart, putting it together. And I used to do that when those things worked, right? So imagine when they stopped working and the things I used to get in trouble for, now my mom needed me to fix it because she knew I had the skill set to do so. So I used to fix old laptops that my family members were giving away, and I would actually resell it, which started my entrepreneurship journey. And then my fun fact, my hobby now, and also growing up, was always putting together furniture and things like that. So I was always that girl who took things apart and put it back together because I was curious. And then I grew up in that non-traditional household where I just had a single mother. So we didn't have a male in the home in order to do these things for us. So I took on that role, being the eldest child in the household. And I was born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina. So I'm going to take you a little bit on my journey. As you can see, it's from 2011 up until 2019, and we are currently in 2023. So what does that mean? Since 2019, the only thing that has changed is the knowledge that I've gained. So in 2011 is when I graduated with my Bachelor of Science in Business Administration Management. And I know you're like, how did you get in IT and you have a general major like that? So I took a lot of computer science courses, but I did not want to commit to computer science. And the reason why I did not want to commit to computer science, and this is just my personal preference, was I didn't feel that the university I was at had the faculty equipped to teach me more than what I already knew. Not your problem, right? Because I work with your instructors all the time and they are very well versed in their fields, right? But I didn't have that opportunity at my school. I received a full basketball scholarship to LSU. My mom got sick, so I wasn't able to go to the school that I wanted to go to. So I had to go to a school that was close in driving distance to home. So therefore, I took a major that they had, and I just added on computer science courses, even if it made me be in school for an extra semester. So in 2011, after I graduated and came back from Asia, I lived in South Korea and I lived in Xi'an, China for 2 months. I moved to Washington, D.C., and this is where my career started. I started working as the information systems secretary. I was only making $33,000 in Washington, D.C., $33,000. So imagine someone struggling with all this energy, with all this knowledge, struggling to pay bills based off the salary that she has. But I was like, I didn't care. I just wanted to get my foot in the door. And when I got my foot in the door, I was now in control of my destiny. So I got a role as an information systems secretary, which was not my ideal role, but it got my foot inside the information systems department, right? After I got into the information systems department, I was responsible for making sure their data went to the correct places. I was responsible for making sure all the reporting was correct. So it started me on my IT journey. Oh, and when they found out that I can fix equipment, they started having me do that as well. So I started fixing computers for everyone in the office and remotely. This is when the remote work was just now, kicking off a little bit. And then in 2014, I had a transition shift where this is where I started my certification journey. Now, keep in mind, I've never paid for a certification or training out of my pocket. I always negotiated with my employer to do so. So I got my ITIL Foundation certification. And if you don't know what ITIL is, it's your entry level into IT. So just like some people say, take the A+ certification and all that. It all depends. If you're trying to get your foot in the door and be on the service side of IT, ITIL, Six Sigma, those will help you move a little bit faster. But I also knew that I wanted to expand my knowledge in database. So I also got the Microsoft, I took the Microsoft SQL Server Bootcamp as well. So I'll be able to work on the reporting side and also on the database side of administering the database. In 2015, I graduated with my Master of Science in Management Information System and Information Insurance. So if you know anything about information insurance, we're now focusing on the security side of the data, which was an element that I knew nothing about. So through all of these avenues, I'm strategically building my portfolio to create the whole entire blueprint of what is now going to turn into my database future. So as you can see here, in 2015, I worked as the technology services coordinator for a health association. And I remember my first day, my boss pulled me in the break room and he asked me, "You have all this experience in IT. What do you want your focus to be?" And I said, "You know what? I really don't know. I like it all." So he said, "Well, let's put you on the database track." So he actually one-on-one coached me on how to connect databases to front-end web applications. He showed me how to migrate databases from Microsoft SQL Server over to MySQL and how to migrate over to MySQL over to Oracle. If someone internally needed a temporary database built, we just used Microsoft Access for that team and for that person. So he expanded my knowledge. And he was actually the person who approved me to get my Microsoft Bootcamp certification after that 2014 year. So probably a year and a half later, he promoted me to manager. And he was like, I understand we can promote you to manager, but financially we cannot. So at this point, I'm making $50-something thousand. Still struggling in DC because it's not enough. And I actually lived in the city. So during that time, my previous employer, where I was the secretary for, did no secretary work, calls me and says, Brittany, we need you. And I thought long and hard on this. 2 months. For 2 months, they chased me and said, we need you, we need you, we need you. So I thought for 2 months, should I do this? Should I not do this? Because when I left the employer the first time, I didn't have a job lined up. I just knew I was tired. I'm not saying everyone, before you quit your job, make sure you have another job lined up. But I was in the place where I'm not going to do anything that doesn't make me happy. Everyone doesn't have that opportunity. I saved up 3 months worth of funds. How did I do that on my small salary? I pick and choose where I spent my money on. I literally lived as a hermit in order to prepare myself for that transition. So I went back to them, but this time I was a technology services coordinator. So as you can see, when I first went, it was the information systems department. And then when I went back, it turned into the technology services department, and their work structure titles don't matter in the IT field. I can tell you guys that no two organization has the same org chart. So even though the technology services coordinator was just a coordinator position at the health association, it was an assistant director position at my previous job when I came back. I was able to negotiate my salary. I got the salary I wanted. Even when I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I am now in 2018, they kept me on for contract work to contract that work out until I was able, even though I had another job, they still wanted me to help them get through a few more deliverables. So when I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina in 2018, I became a problem manager. And this is where I tapped into my ITIL side. So if you know anything about ITIL, it starts off with focusing on major service areas. The first one is going to be incident management. So basically when a ticket comes in and you have to reset someone's password, that's an incident, okay? If that happens over and over and over and over again, it turns into a problem, which is now the problem manager. And that's what I was. I was the person who queried the database, built reports to show companies, and I worked with 3 companies. I worked with an accounting firm. I also worked with an energy company, and I also worked with I think it was another energy company as well. But I worked with those 3 companies and I ran reports for them, custom reports that I built, and I developed presentations for them on a monthly basis. Now, you can develop reports on a weekly basis, that's fine, but monthly should be your minimum. And the reason why I say monthly is because that can give you a full picture of what the life cycle of a company is actually happening. So I went from problem management, and then after problem management, I present and I show them. I also develop permanent fixes. Some people develop temporary workarounds. My goal is to, yes, have a temporary workaround to get through the operations, however, develop permanent fixes as well. So that was my job. After it left the problem manager, it went over to change management. And what change management does is when you find that sustainable solution, that change manager is responsible for implementing that solution. So it went from incident, a one-time occurrence, to problem, a multi-occurrence of the same situation, to change the implementation of that occurrence. So throughout all of those 3 steps, you are dealing with different types of people within the IT field. That's why I love the service industry, because you have to learn from the database people in order to correct them on something. You have to learn from the analysts in order for them to actually understanding what they're analyzing, right? Because no data looks the same across the industry. It all depends on the company and also the industry that you are in and whatever their service area is. So that was 2018. And then 2019, this is where I trained for my Six Sigma yellow belt, and how Six Sigma differs from ITIL. Think of ITIL as basic, right? But it gets your foot in the door. Six Sigma is you have your foot in the door. Now it's time for you to take off, right? You're mainly focusing on the different avenues you're focusing on quality. What's the quality of all of these things happening? So I obtained my Six Sigma yellow belt. And then now I am the director of information systems for a fraternity. Now, let me tell you guys how I got into that role. I was not looking for a job. I was happy with my problem manager job because I loved working in different industries at one time. I love the amount of data that I can touch. So a vendor that I used to work with in the first employer reached out to me and said, hey, we have a company who could use your services. Okay, so now I'm no longer working as the assistant director contracted. I'm working as the problem manager in Charlotte, remotely, of course. And they said, hey, I need you to just sit down with this guy and hear him out. So the chief officer at the time, chief operating officer at the time, said, hey, I want to schedule some time. He took me out to a 5-star dinner. And he basically said, this is the real. And he told me the culture of the organization, what they lacked, what their goals were, and pretty much asked me if I could help. And I told him, I said, well, if you can match the salary that I was making on my last job, then of course I will come over. And they were able to match the salary. My point is always negotiate your worth. You do not have to struggle forever. Always negotiate your worth. So that is my lifespan. So let's go into the next series of things. So where am I at now? I'm in Charlotte. And why do I stay in the IT field? I'm going to be honest with you. It's a lot of work and the money is awesome. And you get burnt out really fast. But at the end of the day, guess what? They need your expertise because no matter what industry you are in, IT is needed. Information systems is needed. You are needed. So it's not going to be hard for you to find a job. The reason why I still work in the IT field is because my students. I feel good to say that I am that professor who can bring internships to the university. I am that professor who can look at my students' resumes and modify it for what I would be looking for if I was hiring them. I am that professor outside of class who does one-on-one interviews with them to train them for the job that they want. I also ask them, where do they want to live? Help them find the jobs in that area and tell them what they need to do to get that job. Outside of that, I have a lot of friends. And one of my friends, I'm actually going to give you guys a resource at the end of this. One of my friends works for Microsoft right now. He had no IT experience. No, he was a bartender, didn't graduate with an IT degree. And he said, Brittany, I want to get into the IT field. I told him, this is what you need to do. And now he works at Microsoft. And I don't know if you guys know, but when you are employed with Microsoft, they give you stock into that company as soon as you are employed. And when you leave that company, you still own that stock. So, and he also works for Delta at the time as well. So we did one-on-one interview trainings. I modified his resume. I even showed him how to use platforms like Tableau. So if you tell me what you need, I'm going to get you there. As an IT director, I do the same thing. When I hire someone, I always have a blueprint for their future because your employees, you want them to stay with you forever, but that's not going to happen. The best job as a director that you can do is help them be successful to get to the ideal job that they want to get to. That's the least that you can do for them because that's what was done for me. So I'm going to make sure that what I retained, I'm also going to pour out into everyone else. So that's where I'm at now. So why does the IT field need you? Okay. I know this is targeted towards women, so this is what this slide is based off of. So men, it's okay. We still love you, but we may talk about you a little bit right now, okay? So in the workforce, it's dominated by men. We all know that. It's dominated by men. But the good thing about it is, even though women are the majority population, men still dominate the workforce, right? But after the pandemic in 2020, females start showing up, right? Because regardless of the situation, we know that we have to take care of our families. We know that we need the job, but we also had impact from external factors, like when we have to go on maternity leave, right? Fighting for a pay raise, fighting for a promotion, things that men traditionally do not have to deal with. Your job is to make your company feel like you are an asset. You don't ever want them to feel like you are disposable. Right now, I am an asset to my company. I put in my 3 months notice. My boss was like, no, we're going to do X, Y, and Z in order to keep you. So you want them to feel like you are an asset, right? Number two, everything a woman touches, we multiply. Everything a woman touches, we multiply. We are natural nurturers from childbirth, right? We're here to reproduce, right? Finances, we elevate finances in our family, etc. We are made for this. We can handle anything that is thrown to us. So anything we touch, we multiply. Then let's talk about diversity. Now, these are going to be a few terminology that you guys know about because you should be learning it in your classes. Diversity plays a role in management, regardless, especially in technology. Why? Because a lot of companies can't afford or think it's a better strategy to offshore certain aspects of their business with foreign countries. And the reason why they do that could be time. The reason why they do that could be money. But as a US-based company, when you understand the culture of the country that you are seeking to work with, offshoring those roles and responsibilities, they gravitate towards you a little bit more, especially if you immerse yourself in their culture. When I lived in Korea, in China, I was actually offered a full-time role in South Korea at their COEX, which is their convention center and exchange. Now, I didn't speak the language, but my personality and the fact that I actually took the time to participate in their traditions and eat the same food that they eat and commerce and have conversations with them about what do they want to see differently in their culture, I was actually able to bring that back to the US, which allowed my work with, as a problem manager, I worked with countries such as people in India. I also worked with people in Guatemala. I also worked with people in Mexico, and it developed a certain sensitivity for me to work with those other cultures, because I have to understand, as an American, we think and we look at relationships and interactions differently than other cultures. No two cultures interact the same, but what we all can agree on is if you're a good person, you're a good person. If you're not a good person, you're not a good person. What that prepared me for is now I work for a white fraternal organization. I am the only Black woman. My age, I'm in the middle of the age pool. I have people really older than me, and everyone else is younger than me, because we hire fraternity brothers straight out of college. So imagine how older I am from them, because our job is to navigate them and get them into the workforce. So working and dealing with people from different cultures also allowed me to work in a tight, close space with them as well. So what I have for you on this last slide, my friend from Microsoft, okay? Microsoft currently offers free certifications for students right now. You're probably going to ask me, well, can you get that tomorrow? I don't know. All I can tell you is it's being offered right now. So the QR code on the top is going to send you a link to the certification site. The QR code on the bottom is going to send you to their student career site. They are hiring right now. My friend, he does not get anything out of it. They wouldn't even know that this is connected to him. You just have to have a .edu email address. So hopefully everyone can share this with their classes. But if you have a .edu, so instructors, you have a .edu email address. So you also have this opportunity to get these Microsoft certifications as well. But thank you for your time. If there are any questions, we can open the floor up to questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Washington, for sharing your journey, your experiences, everything that you went through from how you started to where you are and what inspires you. I'm sure that was very helpful for our students to hear. So I'm going to open up the floor to any of you that would like to ask Dr. Washington any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
Victor, I can hear you.
Great. I was wondering, because I've been thinking about getting a master's in computer science and such. So I was wondering your process for doing so. Like, did you do it little by little over 4 years, or did you work for 2 years and then do the master's for 2 years and such? I was just yeah.
Dr. Owusu can answer this because he's been asking me why I did this to myself. I worked full time throughout my whole entire, I don't know what it means to not work and go to school. So imagine when I graduated with my doctorate in 2021, I was like, what am I going to do with my free time? And I really did it all. I didn't have free time. I'm going to be honest with you. It's challenging. When I went to get my master's, I had night classes. So me working from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then driving from Washington, D.C. to Bowie, Maryland in rush hour was roughly an hour and a half for classes. And I probably didn't get home until midnight every day. And I did that for 3 years. For my doctorate, I commuted half days. So I would work in the office for the first half of the day. I commuted from DC to Towson, Maryland, which is the suburbs of Baltimore, 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 hours to school to either take a class or teach a class. Yeah, so I mean, it's hard. I'm going to be honest with you, but if your university offers a good transition program for you to go from your bachelor's to master's, I always recommend that because it's easy to transition. For some, it's harder if they switch universities.
Okay, yeah. I think I might partly be feeling what you're talking about because I graduate this spring and next semester and be like, wow, I don't have any more classes, So
yeah, like what am I going to do with my free time?
Yeah.
But the thing about me, every degree that I have the school never gave me funds for it. I paid out of pocket. So I had to work on top of that. So if you have a university who is paying for your education, then I highly recommend just focusing on that. And then if you can move back home with your parents, or whatever opportunity you have, I would recommend doing that. When I graduated with my doctorate, my dad thought I was going to move home, but I'm like, I'm an adult at this point. Why would I do that? And he wouldn't let me pay any bills. So if you have that opportunity to do that, save money.
Can I get the measurement of your thumb and index finger?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Dr. Washington, we have a question in the chat from Stacy. And she asked, what tips would you give women who want to look into IT but aren't sure where to start?
Stacy, if you don't mind me asking your major.
I'm a double in math and computer science.
Ooh, I love both of those. So background, Stacy, I was a math whiz in school to the point where I developed a math Bible that I build on from elementary school all the way to undergrad. So I was that person who tested out of pre-calculus and did not have to take calculus in undergrad because I loved math so much. Now, as a student, you have to think about what class do you like the most, not what instructor you like the most, what class do you like the most, and what you can see yourself doing in the future. Because some of us are motivated by money. Some of us are motivated by the type of work that we do, and some of us are motivated by the amount of work that we have to do. So you have to figure out what your motivation is going to be. And to be quite honest with you, if you say that your favorite, class right now may be a operations management class and you decide to go into that field, you very much so may not like it. And that's okay. You're still young enough to be able to switch throughout your field and establish what you want to be. Now, me personally, I like to get all the pieces. I like to be well-versed in IT, because if something falls short in one area, I can say, oh, I can help you with that. So that increases your job security in wherever you are. So find out what class you like the most, look for jobs in that area, and then go from there.
Okay, great. We have another question that came in by one of our students, Tiki, and he says, I also have a question about what you think a student should focus on when they're going through their studies to prepare them the most on their career. As in, what is more important, getting the best grade or understanding the material, even if they don't always line up?
Well, you need to get a passing grade in order to graduate, not necessarily the best grade, because if you strive for best, you will fail every single time. So strive for pass in understanding. So that way, if you do go to that next level class, let's talk about in series of prerequisites. You have certain prerequisites for certain classes. Sometimes as a student, our mentality is, hey, I need to pass this class in order to take this next one in order for me to graduate. You don't want that to be your focus. You want to focus on taking that prerequisite, understanding what you learned in that prerequisite, because the material for that prerequisite should prepare you for your next class. I teach lower level classes and upper level classes, and I have students who come to my upper level class ill prepared because they focused on just passing or getting a good grade instead of understanding the material. So I 100% believe that understanding the material is best, because in order for you to understand what you want to do or not, you have to understand the material.
Okay, I think we have a follow-up question to that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you encourage students to combat the nervousness of starting a new thing?
Well, I can speak on this highly. I suffer from anxiety. So anytime you put a test in front of me, I start sweating, hyperventilating to the point where I need to go out and take a walk. Even when I'm meeting students for the first time standing in front of my class, I don't know how they're going to receive me. So I also get anxiety standing there. So sometimes it just takes the opportunity to just sit back, breathe, and then move forward. You're never going to 100% be able to master a space if you have not been in that space before. As instructors, we are responsible for research, traveling for conferences and doing presentations. I'm always nervous beforehand, but when I get on that stage, the audience gravitates from me because I just put my personality into it. So just take a breather, step back, and then be in the space, completely in the space. And I know some of the times we have issues with, if we're in a classroom that has computers in it, we're supposed to be paying attention to the instructors, but we'll be on the computer, maybe doing work for other classes or not focused. So we have to make sure that we maintain, because in a level of comfort, you also have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's how you adapt moving through life.
That's really great advice. Any other questions?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi,
Ashley, go
Ashley.
ahead.
Yes.
Hi. Okay. So if we wanted to get more familiar with how to like handle and fix like hardware and that kind of thing. Do you have any kind of like resources that could help us with that without like actually taking our stuff apart?
I
Because I
sure do.
like my laptop and
Ready
it,
for it? Let me
yeah.
know if you're ready for it.
Okay.
Google
ahead.
and YouTube. Google and YouTube. Working in the IT field, technology is changing so rapidly. You're going to be Googling and YouTubing for the rest of your life.
Okay.
Google and YouTube. And I know you guys may think that is a minor response, but it's the truth. There's not one person in the IT field who knows 100% everything. As an IT director, we hire subject matter experts. We call them SMEs. And these are people who have mastered their skill set. But even though you have mastered your skill set, somebody is still developing and adding on to that arena every single day, and probably even down to the hour or down to the minute. As an IT director, and a lot of people say this, my students say this as well in their internships. They'll say, I work for someone who doesn't even know what I'm doing, right? They didn't hire you to know what, they hired you because you know. They didn't hire you so we can know. But I'm the type of director who, if my employee leaves today or tomorrow, I can pick up their tasks because I know. I learned from them, they learned from me. So it's always going to be an even exchange.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Can I
let's
give
take
another tip, guys? Sorry.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
And this is just working in the real world in general. Your coworkers are not your friends. They are your coworkers, okay? Job security is a lot for a lot of people. So if you can learn from people, cool. If you want to share your knowledge, cool. But the better world is when we all are sharing. Holding knowledge for yourself does not benefit you, nor does it benefit your coworkers, okay? So just keep in mind, try to keep that that line between work and outside of work.
Great. Okay, so we have another question for you. In college, have you ever had days where you had so many assignments to the point of stressing out yourself? What activities did you do to manage stress and time? I remember you mentioning doing carpentry for fun.
Yeah, so my dad and granddad are carpenters, and I did do that as my escape. But especially if you live in places like DC, you can just walk and walk and walk and walk, and you're still walking. That's one thing that I did to calm myself down. And don't wait till the last minute. When your instructor gives you that schedule, that syllabus, you have those due dates, plan it out and what you're going to do every day. Because me as an instructor now, if I miss my agreed upon grading day, I'm behind. And then everything else is behind. And then everything else is behind. It's like when you're on a weight loss journey, right? And you said, oh, I'm gonna start tomorrow. I'm gonna eat this burger today. Oh, I'm gonna start the next day. I'm gonna eat this burger the next day. You're gonna eat a lot of burgers, right? But one day you have to say, let me stop. Let me focus on what I actually need to do. And honestly, I've never taken less than 4 classes. My first time taking less than 4 classes is when I passed my qualifying exams for my doctorate. And I've been in school since I was 4 years old. Okay, I've never taken less than 4 classes. So, and on top of that, I worked. So my load has always been heavy, and that's because I got comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to set a schedule for yourself. You also have to give yourself grace, but not enough grace to the point where it becomes excuses. 1 or 2 grace periods, good, but grace after grace after grace after grace turns into an excuse. And you don't want to do that, because the longer you put things off, the worst everything really gets. And it's the easiest part is focus on graduating, because once you graduate, and if you decide not to go back to school, you don't have to worry about those 4 classes and that workload anymore. So let's navigate through that and look at the light at the end of the tunnel. But I agree, it's a lot.
Yeah, that's absolutely great advice. And I hope all of our students that are attending this session took note of that. Please don't procrastinate, right? Don't wait till the very last minute. And I completely understand where Stacy is coming from, this question, Brittany, because there's finals next week and projects and assignments. So
Yes.
it's a very stressful time for our students. So
Yes.
that was really great advice.
But guess what? The same stress levels that you have now, working in group projects. None of us like working in group projects, but guess what? When you get into the real world, you can't pick your group. You're going to be working in group projects. Now they're just called teams. They're not called groups, right? Taking 4 classes, stress during finals, stress during projects. When your organization has that master deadline, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be stressed. So school, this atmosphere is preparing you for what you're going to be living with for the rest of your life. Even if you work for yourself, as long as you have deadlines in your life, you are always going to have a period of stress, but how you manage that stress is what's important.
Absolutely. That is definitely the truth. So everything you're experiencing in your courses and here in school, it's just a taste of what's out there in the real life, real world.
For sure.
Okay, so let's see if there are any other last questions. We might have time for one more. No. Okay, I guess not. Well, then, thank you, Dr. Washington, for taking the time this afternoon to speak with our students and help us celebrate and realize the importance of diversity and sharing your journey, your experience. I'm sure it was extremely inspiring to all of our students. And students, I hope you found this very helpful. And if Dr. Washington is okay, if maybe we can share your contact information with our students. And
Of course.
okay, so once you provide that to me, I can share that with our students. And feel
And
free
can I
to
say one more thing off what Stacy said? Stacy, I run an IT department. Majority of my employees are not in my office. I teach full-time. I'm required to do research. I also help people navigate throughout their careers. I'm tired and I'm still making it. So you can make it too. Trust me, you can. It's possible.
It's possible because of, for people like you that are doing so many things and are successful. So it's only when students get to see and hear from people like you, it truly inspires them.
It's worth it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. So let's wrap up this session. Let's give Dr. Washington, let's unmute, everyone unmute yourself. Let's give Dr. Washington a warm round of applause for her taking the time to speak with us this afternoon. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll share this presentation as well, so you guys can have the QR code for the certifications and the careers.
Perfect. If you could email it to me, I will share it with our students.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.